What's your biggest secret that you can only share with online strangers? Story 1. I'm not going into a lot of detail, but it started like the usual story. Girl meets boy in a rocky relationship. He told me all the right things, and my stupid insecure self thought he was perfect. Manly, unappreciated ex-Marine with the weight of the world on his shoulders. We had so much in common it was almost scary. He knew exactly what to say, and I ate it all up. He left his girlfriend, treated me like a princess, came to live with me. I met his parents, they loved me. I met his friends, they adored me. I loved the feeling of a happy home and having someone who actually helped and listened. Obviously, it started off in the worst way. I have never cheated, but I thought it would be different. I gave him everything she didn't, right? And for about a year it was, but slowly things changed. I've never looked through his phone. I don't have the password, but he gave it to me for a game. I opened Instagram and there it was. Messages for bunnies, OF accounts, talking about how he was lonely. Photos, and the worst, the deleted ones, with his ex, and with another girl I also know. I know what I'm in for. I should have known better, and I do. I haven't said anything. I've acted like everything is absolutely fine, but something has broken in me. I look at him differently now. I can't kick him out yet because of our financial situation, but I will take my time planning exactly what I will do. In the meantime, I'll make his life a little more miserable, just enough to make him start questioning things. I've never done anything for revenge. I usually don't hold grudges. Those things only hurt us in the end. But this time, it's different. He was there when my mother had a mental breakdown and tried to harm me. He condemned everyone who had ever treated me badly and told me how much more I deserved. I would have done anything for the high he gave me, and now he's done all of those same things right back to me. I'm absolutely to blame, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to take that away. I did this to myself, and yet I'm the angriest and most apathetic I've ever been in my life. The fact that he played the victim, built me up, and then did even worse, I just can't comprehend it. That's my truth, off my chest. I'm not going to do anything now. I already know I can fake everything until the time is right. I won't do anything to physically hurt him, but I will play the long game. I'm too embarrassed to tell my friends, and my family is pretty much non-existent, so here it is. Before we continue, do us a quick favor. Smash that like button and subscribe to support our channel. Story 2. My husband cheated on me. I have a niece, Anastasia, 23, now 24, and I played a big part in raising her. Her mother left with another man, and her father, my brother, was an alcoholic who neglected her and at times physically hurt her. I married Ivan, who was the opposite of my brother. From a poor childhood, he became a successful businessman. At the time this mess happened, his business had almost 50 employees, and over the past months, he's grown it even more. He takes care of himself, dresses well, is confident, slim, tall, and is a good father to our 7-year-old daughter. Anastasia adored him. She was 18 when I married Ivan, and finally we had a man in the family who could stand up to her father. He defended her. If she called in the middle of the night saying her father's friends were over and she was scared, Ivan would pick her up and bring her to us. She was always vocal about how much she admired him. My husband and her father didn't get along. Ivan was fed up with constantly picking him up from the hospital and paying for his liver issues. He also supported my mother financially. Ivan had cheated on me several times before, but I still felt secure in our marriage. He controlled the chaos of our family. Fast forward, I discovered that Ivan and Anastasia had been involved behind my back for more than a year. It happened after or before family dinners, whenever I wasn't around. Anastasia changed a lot, or perhaps revealed her true face. She told me she wanted my husband, and that she deserved him more than I did. I divorced him. Very quickly afterward, he and my niece started dating officially. We weren't even fully divorced yet. Meanwhile, my brother passed away, and even then he tried to ask Ivan for money because of the mess. The relationship between my niece and my ex didn't last long. He started drinking again, cried in front of our daughter, and blamed Anastasia for ruining our marriage. He became violent toward her. Anastasia was obsessed with him but eventually left him. Anastasia was always extraordinarily beautiful and quickly found someone else. My husband tried his hardest to get her back, more than he ever tried to get me back, but their relationship was mostly a bedroom fantasy. She did everything he wanted her to do. My therapist helped me understand this was likely the reason behind it. I blamed myself. Now, 1 year later, all three of us are single. Anastasia apologized to me, and even though I still loved her, I couldn't forgive her and don't want her around me. She realized who he really is, and it saddens me. But she is all alone. No friends, no family, nothing. She still reaches out from time to time. He is dating women in their 20s, and I am still in therapy. But I have a good job and take care of my daughter, Maggie. I also found out that my mother and my brother knew all along about the affair, but no one told me. They probably feared what would happen anyway, that we would divorce and they would lose any support from him. Story 3. Hey everyone, I just need to get this off my chest because I feel so tired and lost. I've been with my boyfriend for 4 years. I met him shortly after moving to this city. He had already been living here for a couple of years. We're both from the same country, and now we live together. We're in our early 20s. Everything started off well, but about 4 months into the relationship, he ran into financial trouble. I decided to help and lent him around $500. He did pay it back, but it took forever. Since then, it's become a pattern. I keep lending him money, and most of the time, he never pays me back. I often end up covering half or more of his rent, and he never reimburses me. I pay for groceries, dates, and sometimes even his clothes. I work, I've finished university, and I'm now doing my master's degree, paying my tuition on my own. Meanwhile, he's still stuck in the same place financially. Every month, I have to practically beg him to pay his share of the rent. It's exhausting. He's working, but he spends more than half of his salary on his car lease. He keeps saying that once it's paid off, he'll sell the car and things will get better. There are only 3 months left, so I told myself I'll wait and see if he actually changes. But honestly, I'm scared of what our future looks like. He also has debt under my name that he refuses to pay, claiming he can't afford it even though I'm managing to cover my tuition, rent, and everything else. What hurts the most is how used and trapped I feel. When I almost lost my job and was struggling, he didn't support me once. Instead, he told me it wasn't even a real problem. That broke me. I'm just so tired. I've been holding on to hope for so long, believing things would get better, but after 4 years, nothing has changed. It feels like I'm the only one putting in any effort to make this relationship work, and deep down, I'm starting to realize I might have been wrong for believing in him for so long. Story 4. Hello. I am currently going through some heavyweight stuff involving my daughter's father. Her father is a cruel, unkind, unloving, and immature man. He fat-shamed me, berated me, insulted me, and hurt me while I was pregnant with our daughter. After she was born, he became even more distant. He called me slurs, threw insults, and preferred spending time with his friends over being with us, all while I was struggling with postpartum depression. In August, I'd had enough. I left. I finally left, but after a few days, the regret started creeping in. I tried to go back, but by then he was already following other girls on Instagram and made it clear I wasn't worth fighting for. I understood, but I just wanted to feel wanted and cared for. He told me over and over that he didn't love me anymore and didn't want to be with me, yet he still slept with me almost every time we saw each other. Fast forward, I met his nephew. He's about a year older than my daughter's father and the complete opposite of him. We connected as friends at first, hung out a few times over a month, and started talking more seriously about 3 weeks ago. I feel awful about what happened next. My daughter's father came home early and caught us in his bed together. The moment I saw him, I felt sick, like I'd completely ruined everything. He started screaming, calling me names, and yelling that I needed to get out of his house. I broke down crying as his anger escalated, and then he grabbed me and started shoving me toward the back door. I screamed at him to let me go. Our daughter was still in his room. He was furious, shouting and cursing as I went outside. I tried to collect my things while he picked up our daughter, suddenly showering her with affection I'd never seen from him before. He was raging about how we'd slept together just the week before, and now I was with his nephew. I know I was in the wrong, but in the moment, I shouted back that if he had been a decent person and a good father, none of this would have happened. He texted me afterwards saying things like, "I hope you disappear," and "This week it's him. Next week it'll be 10 others." Every time I try to talk about anything other than what our daughter is doing in that exact moment, he lashes out. He's clearly moved on, so I decided to move on too. I still feel guilty about what happened, especially that it was in his room, but after everything he put me through, part of me can't help thinking he deserved it. I don't know, I just need reassurance. I need someone to tell me that I'll be okay. Story 5. Husband from Hell. I've been holding all of this in, and I need to vent before I explode. During our engagement, my husband's construction company completely slowed down. Almost no work coming in. He told me not to worry about our wedding because he already had the money set aside. Fast forward to 1 week before the wedding, and he suddenly confesses that he can't pay for it and doesn't know what to do. I didn't want to cancel. We already had everything prepared. Deposits paid, vendors booked. We just needed to pay the remaining balances before or on the wedding day. So, being the overly understanding person I am, I offered to lend him $10,000 from my own savings to cover it all. He promised he'd pay me back as soon as he could. Before that, I'd made another personal investment of $10,000, which left me with around $9,000 in the bank. We ended up having an amazing wedding, and as for the honeymoon, I didn't push for it since his business wasn't doing well. I told him we could plan it later, and I was fine with that. We had planned to have children much later in our marriage, but God blessed us with a baby just 4 months in. It wasn't ideal timing, but I've never seen our baby as a mistake. My husband got a new job, And a few months later, I did too. When my job asked for my banking information for direct deposits, I noticed $7,000 missing from my account. My first thought was that I was being scammed somehow. Turns out, my husband had been going into my phone and transferring money to himself via Venmo in amounts of $500 to $1,000 at a time. My heart was shattered. I wasn't paying for anything myself, so I had no reason to be checking my bank account. Mind you, I was pregnant, hormonal, and furious, and this is just the start of everything I've had to endure. Please don't call me stupid. He was basically cheating on me with a new coworker. We've almost been evicted from our apartment multiple times because he just can't manage to pay. His truck got repossessed, and I had to cover nearly $900 to get it back. I've paid for his car payments, all my OB appointments because he couldn't, and supported him when he got fired for staying up playing video games and constantly being late. He would steal my card or cash from my purse and text other girls on Snapchat. There are probably even more things I've blocked out. The bottom line is that my heart is too good, and I'm too forgiving. I don't want a divorce for my baby's sake, but I honestly don't know how much more I can handle. My husband is a grown man, but he acts like a child, and I know it. Story 6. Uncomfortable situation with husband and daycare teacher. My daughter is 5 months old and has been in daycare since she was 12 weeks. My husband usually drops her off in the mornings before work, and I pick her up in the afternoons, unless I have a meeting, in which case he picks her up. This happened this past Friday. Today, when I went to pick up my daughter, one of the new teachers asked to speak with me about my husband. She first confirmed that we were still together, then told me that he has been making the female teachers uncomfortable multiple times during drop-offs. Examples included standing too close to the teacher while talking when our daughter was across the room, or in her crib, commenting on the teacher's seating positions and asking about one specific teacher every time she wasn't in the infant room, saying he would wait for her. She said that on Friday, when he picked up our baby instead of me, she held our daughter away from her body to avoid him, but he still brushed against her chest while reaching for our baby. She believed this was intentional and filed a report with the director. She is 18. I went with her to talk to the director, who confirmed that she had received several reports about my husband asking other teachers about where that one specific teacher was anytime she wasn't in the infant room. The teachers were uncomfortable with how persistent he was. The director also told me that this specific teacher recently quit because of a comment he made. Apparently, she was sitting on the floor, kind of like a deep squat with her butt on the ground, leaning back slightly against a chair when he knelt down to place our baby next to the one she was feeding, and said, "That's a nice position." This made her so uncomfortable that she quit. I had noticed that she had been acting kind of cold toward me leading up to her quitting, so I'm wondering if this is connected. This caught me completely off guard, because he has never given me any reason not to trust him or any indication that he was behaving this way. I feel torn between wanting to believe the stories of these teachers and trusting my husband, giving him the benefit of the doubt. He can be a bit socially awkward and sometimes misses social cues. Up until now, our marriage has been solid, and we have a good level of communication. The director said she hadn't brought it up to me earlier because she had never personally witnessed him making a weird comment or felt uncomfortable herself. She emphasized that she wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but since the new teacher on Friday filed a report, she felt it was important to let me know. I am honestly gutted. I don't even know what to do. Obviously, I am going to talk to him about it because the teachers asked me to, and what else would I do? But I needed to get this off my chest and talk to someone else because I'm going insane waiting for the chance to speak with him. Any perspective or advice would be really appreciated. Story 7. She miscarried, and I'm so relieved. I feel like a monster, but also like I just got a second chance at life. She was on the pill, and we used protection anyway. When one broke, we didn't think much of it. Then I got a call. She was pregnant, and she wanted to keep it. Cue 12 weeks of me preparing for the end of my life as I know it. I'm a huge traveler, rarely home since I work online to maintain that lifestyle, and I couldn't even imagine having a kid. Anyway, I got the call on Saturday. The baby is gone. The relief that hit me was indescribable. I'm climbing Rainier this weekend to celebrate. We broke up on Monday. Clearly, we weren't on the same page. I don't even know why she wanted me as the dad. I'm awful, immature, not ready at all. I pretended to be sad for her since she was crying on the phone, but inside my head was buzzing. It felt like being told a cancer diagnosis was a false positive. I'm free, man. I think I'll take a 5-year break from relationships altogether. I still can't believe she pulled that on me. We'd talked about abortion before and she'd agreed with me, but the moment she saw that test, everything changed. Anyway, I'm heading out to get smashed for the 3rd night in a row. Then I'll clean up for Rainier and start training seriously for bigger climbs. I'm not even that into drinking, but my hiking friends are thrilled I'm back, so it's been non-stop celebration. Story 8. For the last month, I've been going through all kinds of grief. My high school sweetheart cheated on me and told me she's been in a relationship with a woman for the past month, something that's apparently been going on for the last 3 months. Leading up to this, she was going through a major mental health crisis. It was the anniversary of her cousin's passing away, and she started expressing harmful thoughts herself. I did my best to support her, but her friends kept encouraging her to go out, drink, and sing karaoke. Before long, she was coming home at 7 in the morning, sometimes not at all. We have 3 small children, ages 4, 5, and 7. For 12 days straight, I took care of them while they genuinely thought their mom might be dead. On the rare occasions she did come home, she would cold shoulder me all day and then leave again around 10:30 at night. If that wasn't bad enough, it gets worse. For the last 15 years, and especially in the past month, she's been blaming me for all her emotions. She would try to break up with me, then stand in front of the door and not let me leave. She's made me feel like I'm never enough throughout our entire relationship. Eventually, I reached a breaking point. I told her I was going to withhold love. I would stop saying I love you, stop looking her in the eyes, and only allow myself to be minimally vulnerable. I told her it was up to her to foster a relationship of love by committing to me. The longest she could go before trying to push me away again was about 6 months. Her reasons for wanting out constantly changed. By the end of every fight, she would come back, apologize, and try to do it with me. She would say, "Please, love me now, my craziness is over. I didn't mean it." I would reluctantly cuddle her and reassure her that I could get through this consistent pattern of abandonment. When things started going smoother and I tried to show love better, I would handcraft cards, make videos, tell her I love her, and talk with her all night. It gets even uglier. Currently, she has told everyone in her life and even convinced her therapist that she is the victim, that if I had loved her correctly, she would never have cheated, that her heart was so desperate for love that anyone could have swooped her up. The ugliest part is this. I moved 2 hours away from family and friends so she could secure her dream job and be 5 minutes from her parents. I became a stay-at-home dad while working remotely. Both my parents were drug addicts and devastated my childhood. My grandma adopted me at 7 and saved my life. I always vowed to take care of my children no matter what. Currently, she is on a work trip in a different city with her girlfriend. She goes on late-night, alcohol-fueled dates with her new partner. During all this, she comes home and tries to be intimate with me. At least 5 times, she has told me she's not sure she wants to leave me completely and that she'd like an open relationship. I've said no, but the pain of not having her is eating me, so I routinely let her back in. Last night, we cuddled, nearly kissed, and she insisted on doing it, but I said no. For now, I can't bear to abandon my children. They love me, and I love them. So, I stay home, watch my wife come back with hickeys all over her body, and take care of the kids. I'm 90% certain I'll join the army to get over this pain. But in reality, I just want her to miss me. I want to find a solid remote job so I can stay close to my kids and afford a $200,000 home nearby. That's my dream. Thank you for listening to my rant. It feels good to put this into words. If you have any questions or insight, please share. I know I'm not perfect and may have caused some of this myself. Story 9. I think I'm one of the reasons my friend is going to cheat on his girlfriend. For context, they've been together for 3 years, but their relationship has gone downhill over the last 6 months. They stopped being intimate back in March, which I thought was a clear sign of serious problems. I told him, let's call him Jimmy, to talk to her about it, but she just refused to be intimate with him. They grew distant, could go days without speaking, and started arguing more often. During all this, Jimmy was, and still is, in college, while his girlfriend wasn't. She works at her family's business. His university is about a 3-hour drive from where she lives, so they could only see each other on weekends. Me and another friend, let's call him Mike, have been telling Jimmy to end the relationship because it hasn't gotten any better, even now that his girlfriend is in college too. Sometimes we even joke about him getting cheated on or cheating on her. I know that's not exactly the best kind of advice, but the 3 of us have had plenty of serious conversations about it as well. He just refuses to end things. Today, Jimmy told us he's meeting up with a female classmate. He's studying nursing, and about 80% of the students in that program are women, so most of his friends are female. He said they're going to hang out at his apartment, have a few drinks, and see what happens. Honestly, I don't care much if he cheats. That's his choice. But if this somehow leads him to finally break up with his girlfriend, I can't lie, I'd see that as a win. Story 10. I sleep around because I think it's already over for me. I'm 21 and every time I'm interested in a guy, I end up sleeping with him on the first date because I assume that's all he really wants from me. A lot of the time, they ask to be in a committed relationship afterward, but I usually refuse, except for 2 times because I'm so insecure. I convince myself they're just infatuated and that I'm unlovable. This all started 2 years ago after I got used and discarded by several men I genuinely cared about. Then I got into a relationship with a guy who constantly followed and talked to other girls online. Even though I know I'm very pretty, I internalized the idea that those girls, most of them with big followings or who are celebrities, were better than me. That they're the ones who deserve love and commitment, and I'm not. Honestly, I have stopped sleeping around for about 1 month now because I am really scared of getting pregnant or catching an STD. I really miss it though because it is the only way I allow myself any intimacy with men, and it's the closest I can get to a romantic relationship. One of my ex-boyfriends is going around telling people how easy I am, and that he hated that about me. I don't really mind because he's not wrong. I just don't understand what the problem is. Technically, I am doing something good for men. I even let that ex hit on me on the first date, and he knows everything about my history. Our relationship ended for other reasons. Every time I talk to men online about this, they insult or shame me in some way. I just don't get it. Am I not doing something good for men and for other girls who are actually prettier than me and deserve to be in a relationship? I feel obligated to let every guy hit on the first date because I've done that for other men before, and it feels unfair not to. Besides, I don't believe any man would wait for me, so I don't even bother trying. For the record, my actual body count is 3, but I've given head to 8 guys in total over the past 4 years, which already feels too high for anyone to take me seriously. So why do men get mad when I say there's no point in stopping? It's already done. I can't undo it. It's over for me. Am I just supposed to stay celibate until I die? I really don't get it. I know I'm considered a 304, but I've never gone after someone else's man, and I've never cheated, so I genuinely don't see what I'm doing wrong. I always see men say that 304s shouldn't have high standards or any standards at all, but when I actually live by that and keep racking up bodies because I don't have standards, they still have a problem with it. So what exactly am I supposed to do? Either I stop, which means raising my standards, or I live celibate until I die, which just isn't realistic. I have a really high drive and think about it constantly unless I'm occupied. Story 11. I'm conflicted about giving my kidney to my sister. My wife tells me not to do it, and honestly, I don't want to either. My sister, 45, and I, 39, grew up very close. A big part of who I am today is because of her, and I do love her dearly. We've lived in other states for the last 9 or so years, but we still FaceTime each other now and then. Even as a teen, my sister used to joke that the other kidney in me isn't really mine but hers in reserve. Well, she called me today to tell me she has some form of lupus that affects the kidneys and brought up the kidney joke again. I sighed, but I guess as we get older, these things happen. That said, my sister has always struggled emotionally, physically, and financially, both personally and with her family. Nothing ever seems to go well for her, which makes it hard for me to help. Whatever I do feels like giving her a small shovel to dig out of a hole she keeps making bigger every day. I know lupus can happen for various reasons, and I can't blame her for it, but I can't help thinking this is partly her fault, and once again, little brother is expected to save her. I told my wife about it and she said I shouldn't help, that my sister can just do dialysis. To me, that sounds like a horrible way to live, but I also agree that donating a kidney would only buy her time. I'm not even sure she would make the life changes that would make it worth giving up a kidney and potentially screwing up my own life, especially with a 2- and 5-year-old at home. Her kids are already leaving the nest, so part of me feels like she doesn't have to be as strong anymore. While my life right now is at peak stress for the next 18 years, I'm conflicted. My wife doesn't really understand because she grew up under the one-child policy in China, so she has no siblings. Her mom has siblings, and I told her they would all do the same for each other, but she doesn't believe it. I told her that our daughter and son would do the same for each other if it ever came to that, but she still doesn't understand. I honestly don't know what to think anymore, and I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say. I don't think my sister deserves my kidney unless it's truly a life or death situation. I still have a lot of life left to live with my kids, and the truth is I've made much better choices than she has. Update. Thank you all for your support. I genuinely didn't know about the screening process that the medical team can lie for you if needed, beyond just the mental evaluation. I was fully prepared to go in thinking, what other choice do I have? She's my sister. This is what siblings do. But I've learned that people in my position are actually pretty common, and the doctors see this all the time. I still have a lot to think about, and no matter what I decide, I'm going to end up feeling like a terrible person, either to someone I love or to myself. Story 12. My relationship with my daughter has been destroyed and it is my fault. I've never done anything like this before, and I doubt I ever would in any other lifetime, but I need to get this off my chest. I'm not exactly a tech-savvy person. I didn't even know about Reddit until yesterday, when my granddaughter showed me some art she'd posted there. Then I stumbled across this space, and it felt like as good a place as any to speak my mind. I'm not looking for forgiveness, sympathy, or judgment. I just want to put this out into the void and maybe lighten the weight I've been carrying. Back in the day, when my daughter was growing up, we were the picture of a stereotypical suburban family. white, middle class, living in the suburbs with a dog in the backyard. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. I was the main breadwinner. My son was the family jock, and my daughter was the quiet, soft-spoken one. Like I said, completely ordinary. When they were teenagers, my relationship with my daughter became strained entirely because of my own doing. When she was 17, she came out as gay, and I, for lack of a better phrase, did not handle it well. I won't try to excuse my behavior because there is no excuse. Over the course of a year, I tore our family apart for no reason until she turned 18 and moved out. The only explanation I can offer, though it's not a justification, is that I had never been exposed to anything like that before, and I didn't understand it. But even so, ignorance is no excuse. I deeply, deeply regret the way I acted. I was never physically violent, but looking back, I realize how much emotional damage I caused. It was abuse, plain and simple, and I would give anything to go back and simply accept her for who she is. After she moved out, things never improved between us, not with her, and not with the rest of my family either. My son was about to graduate from college at the time, and over the years we had already begun to drift apart. I told myself it was natural that he was an adult with his own life, so I gave him space. But after everything that happened, he slowly pulled away until our contact dwindled to the occasional phone call around holidays or birthdays. My daughter, on the other hand, never forgave me, and she had every right not to. She cut off contact completely for years, not a single word. Holidays came and went. Birthdays on both sides came and went, and still nothing. In the beginning, I was stubborn, almost prideful, telling myself, she's an adult now, and if this is what she wants, then so be it. I dug my heels in and tried to keep going with life, pretending it didn't bother me as much as it did. My wife, however, stayed in touch with both of them. They wanted nothing to do with me. It wasn't until she passed away that the full weight of my mistakes finally hit me. When she died, I let my son and daughter know about the funeral. The only response I received from my daughter, the first thing I'd heard from her in years, was, "If you're there, I won't be." That was the moment I truly understood the gravity of what I had done. Stupidly, I didn't believe her. I told her I wouldn't attend, but I showed up anyway, hoping somehow we could reconnect. It was a half-hearted attempt, and I was still deep in grief over losing my wife as they were over losing their mother, so it was the wrong time and the wrong place. To make a long story short, it ended in a furious argument between me and my daughter, and my son was angry at me for ruining the funeral. In that moment, I thought I had lost my daughter for good. A year later, my son passed away in a car accident. This time, I didn't go to the funeral. I couldn't. I knew my daughter needed that space more than I did. It tore me apart not to be there, not to say goodbye, but I felt I had forfeited that right. So I stayed home, sat down with a bottle of Jack Daniels, and drank my way through the pain. Surprisingly, after all that, our relationship began to take a turn for the better. Several weeks after my son's funeral, she reached out, tentatively asking if we could meet. When I read her message, my eyes nearly jumped out of my sockets, and my heart felt like it was going to burst. I was overjoyed, elated at the chance to make things right, to finally express how sorry I truly was. In the days leading up to the meeting, I could barely sleep, anxious about messing it all up. And in the hours and minutes before we met, that anxiety only grew stronger. When she finally sat down across from me, I began to spill everything I had been holding in. But she cut me off, laying out the facts plainly. No, she had not forgiven me, and probably never would. No, she had never wanted me back in her life. She had only agreed to meet because her wife had convinced her it might be worth trying to reconnect after the rest of her family had passed. It hurt deeply to hear those words, though I knew I deserved them. Still, I resolved to do whatever it took to make things right. What cut even deeper was realizing everything I had missed over the years: her undergraduate and doctoral graduations, the birth of her son, countless Christmases and holidays. So many moments had passed by while I stubbornly clung to my pride, even though it was all my fault. In my desperation to make up for lost time, I went too far. My daughter had clear boundaries, and more than once I crossed them, caught up in some misguided belief that I was helping, when really I was only making things worse. Eventually, she did the sensible thing and cut me off again. Looking back, I can't blame her. I would have cut off my past self too. It wasn't until my daughter-in-law came to my home, furious, shouting, and rightfully so, that I truly understood how much harm I'd caused. She told me in no uncertain terms to stay away from them forever, and in that moment I knew I had messed up again, and this time it felt final. You'll notice a clear pattern of stubbornness and poor decisions on my part, a pattern that extended beyond my relationships and into other areas of my life. In the years that followed, my life was far from great. Since my wife had passed, I had let my health slide, and I was certainly not getting any younger. The house, though empty, was the home where I had raised my family, so its upkeep fell to me. I was never particularly skilled at DIY, but the long projects kept me busy in retirement, with little else to occupy my time. Until one winter morning, everything came to a screeching halt. In the backyard, there was an external spout my wife had used to water the garden. Over time, the wall around it had cracked. At first, it seemed minor, so I ignored it. But the damage grew, and instead of calling someone to handle it, I went out in the middle of January with a bucket of sealant, determined to patch it myself. Unfortunately, I slipped on a patch of ice, and when I fell, I struck my head against the spout on the side of the house, knocking myself out for a dangerously long time. My neighbor later told me they found me about 6 hours after the fall. Once the sun had set, their dog had dragged them over to where I was lying in the snow. I woke up in the hospital, where they ran all the usual tests. I had suffered a brain bleed and a fractured skull, and after 6 hours in the freezing cold, there were some lasting effects, not enough to leave me incapacitated, but enough to make life harder. I was still able to take care of myself, at least to a degree, and with physical therapy, I managed to get as close to my old self as I could. I never told my daughter about any of this. Why would I? She had made it clear she didn't want me in her life anymore. My daughter-in-law had said the same, and my granddaughter was only 2 years old when I was cut off, so she wouldn't even remember me. I didn't have anyone left who would care. Eventually, though, I had to accept that I needed help, so I hired a live-in nurse to assist with day-to-day tasks. Over time, life settled into something resembling normal. Not a good normal, but a normal nonetheless. I was bored out of my mind, unable to do my old DIY projects, and my health was in terrible shape, but at least there was some routine to it. My daughter eventually found out, not because I told her, but by accident. Since we share the same last name in the system, the hospital mistakenly sent my bill to her. When she saw it, she immediately came over to find out what had happened. To be honest, I had almost given up hope of ever seeing or hearing from her again, as sad as that sounds, so when she appeared at my door while I was eating breakfast, I assumed she was just there to drop off the bill and leave. I could never have imagined what happened next. I know I'm a terrible person, no one needs to remind me of that. I've already accepted that I'll be burning in hell for all eternity, but I never thought I would get another chance to reconnect with my daughter. I honestly don't know why she chose to forgive me. If I were in her place, I don't think I could have forgiven myself. Still, after she found out about the accident, we managed to patch things up at least on the surface. She says she had already been planning to try again, but after everything I've done, I find that hard to believe. All I know is that outwardly we've reconnected as a family. Inwardly, though, it's not nearly that simple. I can feel the tension whenever I'm around her, the unease in her voice, the heaviness in the air. And from my daughter-in-law, I can sense the quiet hostility, the restrained resentment beneath every polite word. At this point, I'm terrified of doing anything that might ruin what little I have left. I feel trapped in my own mind. Though I know I have no right to complain, I don't want to get too close and risk pushing her away again. But I also don't want to stay too distant and end up right back where we were. Deep down, I know it would probably be better for her if I wasn't around at all. I hold myself back from getting close to my granddaughter, even though every part of me wants to. She's old enough now that she would remember me if I were cut off again, and I couldn't bear to cause her that confusion or pain. I don't even dare try to ease the tension or befriend my daughter-in-law. I live in constant fear of saying the wrong thing, of doing the wrong thing, of losing everything again. Every day feels like walking on eggshells, waiting for the moment it all falls apart. And the truth is, I know I deserve it. I created this. If I were in her place, I wouldn't have accepted me back either. It's reached the point where I'm afraid to tell her anything beyond the surface level. We've talked many times, I've apologized many times, and I've done everything I can to atone, but I can't bring myself to share anything that might drive her away. I was recently diagnosed with cancer, the same kind that took my wife, and I didn't tell anyone because I was terrified of losing them. For weeks, I faced my own mortality in silence while waiting for the biopsy results, and for months, I went through treatment alone, pretending my absences were for other reasons. My health is failing anyway, a mix of heart problems, diabetes, and the lingering effects of my head injury, but I can't tell them. I have to keep it secret. It's the only way not to push them away, and the only way not to be a burden. My will is already written. Honestly, I don't think I'll be mourned much. In a way, death would be a final release, a quick, quiet end instead of one they would have to watch unfold. I don't welcome death, but it feels like a fitting end to a life that's been, in the end, pathetic, worthless, and wasted. Again, I would never have imagined doing this. Even while writing this, I still am not sure why I am doing this. But here we are. Story 13. My husband, 37, and I, 34, have been together for 6 years and married for 3. We have a very happy relationship. He even says so. We share many hobbies and get along extremely well. We never fight, only have occasional disagreements. We split chores evenly, contribute to bills proportionally, and generally enjoy the same activities for entertainment. So, what's the problem? This doesn't sound like a typical Reddit post of he's really great except for how horrible he is, because it isn't. He's genuinely a great partner and a kind, thoughtful person. The problem is a difficult but common one: physical intimacy. He wasn't getting it as often as he would have liked, and I don't mean we had a dead bedroom. We were doing it once a week, and I made sure of it because he had expressed concerns before. When we started dating, I knew our drives would be mismatched. Mine is low, and it has been an issue in some of my previous relationships. I'm fairly neutral about intimacy and could go months without it and be perfectly fine. For clarity, it isn't a hormonal issue. I've seen doctors, and it's not because I've never had good times. I have. This is just who I am. At first, he didn't seem to mind. Over time, though, he started to get a bit more frustrated, so we talked about it. As a compromise, we decided that it would happen once a week. I could handle that, and that's what we did, until a few months ago. Then he said he was still frustrated and really wanted it every other day, or at least a few times a week. I told him I couldn't do that. That's why we agreed on once a week, because that's what I can manage. He said he didn't think he could be happy like that. After 6 years, it took 6 years in marriage for him to realize this. And here we are now, separated, with him moved out. See, it was my house we were living in, which I bought before I met him. It's also my pets we were living with, which I had before I met him. We had a happy home and a happy little family. No kids yet, but we were talking about it. Now, half his things are in storage because he has a few hobbies that take up a lot of space, and he can't fit everything into the tiny apartment he had to get. He even had to sell his antique car because he couldn't park it at his new place, and I wouldn't let him keep it here. He's also complaining about money now, since I make more than twice what he makes, and I had been paying more than half of the bills. I'm not sure if he started dating. I told him I didn't care if he did while we were going through the divorce. I know he wasn't cheating. He was very loyal, so there was no other woman waiting in the wings. I'm sure he'll sort things out and get settled eventually. But for now, he's living alone in a cramped apartment that doesn't allow pets, with almost none of the things he enjoyed, and no intimacy at all. All because once a week wasn't good enough. Are you kidding me? Don't get me wrong, I'm not taking pleasure in it, but it's kind of funny to me. Like you made this choice, and now you're miserable. I've spent the last few months devastated and completely upset, but I'm starting to pick myself up and realize how ridiculous the situation actually is. He's a really good person, just maybe a little bit of an idiot. Story 14. I hate the way my sister is raising her kid. My sister and her husband are both incredibly smart people, and they're trying to raise their daughter Amanda to be just as smart, but in reality, they've set her up to be the weird kid. They never baby talked her entire life. No mama or dada, no lovey or doggy, not even a yummy. It was always full words, and they insisted she use full words when speaking about anything. Now they have a 5-year-old running around talking like a tiny professor. It's cute if you're an adult watching her correctly use excessive in a sentence, but it makes her stick out among other kids who have no idea what it means. She also took much longer to start speaking than our younger cousins or their children. The kid is 5 years old and has never seen any kind of TV that isn't Steve Irwin reruns, nor has she ever used a touchscreen for anything. That's not necessarily bad, but it does mean she doesn't know any Disney movies, has never seen Bluey, and hasn't played any of the games the rest of the class is into. As a result, she can't join in when other kids are talking about that kind of stuff, which makes her stick out even more. At pickup yesterday, just about everyone was singing songs from Trolls, and she was standing off to the side watching. Some of their test taking is also done on tablets, and she has no idea what to do when handed one. The teacher doesn't seem to know how to help a kid who needs instructions for navigating them. This is her first year in a group environment. Previously, she's always been watched by family or a babysitter, no daycare or preschool. As a result, she's absolutely miserable at school, where she not only has to fight to get any attention from the adult, but the other kids want little to do with her. She sticks out, has almost no friends, and she really hates it. I watch her for a couple of hours after school until her parents get off work, and it's awful asking how her day went and hearing her describe being left out or made fun of. Now the first birthday parties are happening, and my niece isn't invited to either of the ones this weekend, even though basically the entire class is going. I really hate seeing her so miserable. I feel like if she'd been in group care previously, or even watched some of the popular shows or movies, making friends would be so much easier for her. But I can't say any of this out loud to my sister or even my parents, who love how traditional her upbringing is. They go on long-winded rants about how technology is ruining society and how we're all becoming Wall-E. There's nothing I can really do except watch her come home miserable, and it friggin' sucks. I can comfort her all I want, but the next day it's the same story. Story 15. My marriage lasted almost 8 years and I ended it early last year. Long story short, It didn't end well. After I moved out, I hadn't dated anyone. I didn't go on apps or see anyone. I basically dated myself for about a year, and I finally felt ready to get back out there in the spring of this year. Then I met him. Let's call him E. A was the first guy I actually met since ending my marriage. Of course, I had spoken to a few people once I got back on the apps, but A stood out. We exchanged numbers, and things got serious pretty quickly. About a month into dating, we decided to make things official. He actually initiated it. Everything was great, and I was so happy to have found a really good guy. N was everything my ex wasn't. More than that, I wasn't even thinking about my ex anymore. I was happy being alone, and happy being with A. He was genuinely just a great guy. Then, after about 2 amazing months, things started changing, and they changed fast. He was dealing with the grief of losing his dad. His mom was struggling as well, and she got sick. This triggered his grief, and he began suffering from panic attacks and depression. He would just shut down and stop responding for days. He would contact his work colleagues, but that was it. At that point, I only knew one of his friends, and I didn't have her contact information except for Instagram. I reached out to her there, but she couldn't get a hold of him either for days. It became really concerning. At one point, we even thought something had happened to him and reported him missing. I was feeling really overwhelmed and didn't know what to do. On one hand, I wanted to build a solid, long-term relationship with him. On the other hand, we were still getting to know each other, and I wasn't sure if he was unconsciously using me as a distraction from his grief. Not that I held that against him. That's just a natural response. So I tried to give him space and wait for him to come to me. Then, after days of no contact, he broke up with me. I felt heartbroken. I was really starting to like him. I had let my guard down, and I knew he was liking me too. But I also understood that he was scared, and honestly, it just wasn't the right time for him. It would have been selfish of me to ask him to just try. Still, I was heartbroken. We had a real connection. When I broke things off with my now ex, I felt relief. I felt proud of myself for having the courage to do so. With E, it's different. I am genuinely sad. I really feel like he's going to be the one who got away. Story 16. I, 40M, never thought I'd be writing something like this. Today, my wife 38F and I had a huge argument. She was yelling at our daughter 8 early in the morning. When I stepped in to protect her, my wife hit me in the back. It wasn't hard, no bruises, no blood, but it was enough. I've lived through emotional outbursts before, convincing myself to endure, rationalize, and forgive. But I always told her and myself that physical violence would be the one line I could never accept. She crossed it today. I told her it was over. She is already taking her things. She said she won't stay because she doesn't want to live with conditions. I offered therapy, working on her anger, but she refused. My kids cried when she left, and I cried with them. It hurts like hell. It feels like all the good I did in this marriage was erased in a single blow. It hurts that she won't even apologize. She probably thinks she was justified. But I know I'm doing the right thing for me and for my kids. Even though she now lives only 5 minutes away, it feels like an ocean. Update. The reason she was yelling, my daughter hadn't cleaned her room, and my wife was getting her ready for school. I was doing the dishes when I heard my daughter scream because she got hairspray in her eyes. My wife started yelling at her even worse, saying she was wasting time instead of cleaning her room. My wife has had similar outbursts against me in the past over things like a suit coming back from the dry cleaner in a slightly different shade of gray, or the time the chairs would arrive at an event. I had confirmed the timing with her, but she said it was my fault because I sent the message at 9 a.m. while she was at work, so she would read it wrong. One of the worst was when our washing machine broke down and I had to call a technician. She told me I was useless. About the blow today, she still tries to downplay it, saying it was only a slap, that she meant to hit our daughter, and that I shouldn't have taken my daughter's side or stood in her way. This didn't happen in a split second. I moved to shield my daughter with my back to my wife when I saw her raise her hand. She had more than enough time to stop, yet she chose to hit me. Story 17. I don't like my friend's girlfriend, and I can't hide it from her anymore. My friend Jane started dating this woman. Let's call her the Roach. A little over a year ago. The woman always had some serious red flags, but as time went on, it became clear she was awful. At first, Jane was just really busy with her new girlfriend and couldn't hang out. She would make plans to come to my monthly game night or spend time with me, but then something would happen with the Roach and Jane would stand me up. The excuses were ridiculous. The Roach's bike chain came off and Jane had to help her fix it. The Roach got distracted and Jane had to assist her. The Roach's phone was dead and needed charging, etc. None of it really made sense, yet Jane couldn't hang out after all. The Roach was homeless when Jane met her. Jane wanted to take care of her, so she let the Roach move in. Not long after, Jane got kicked out of her own place. The excuses always revolved around Jane's roommates. Their girlfriend was a jerk who had personal issues with the Roach because, well, she was a jerk. Then they moved into another house, and suddenly the new roommates were horrible people who were abusive toward the roach. They went through a series of living situations, always getting kicked out, and somehow everyone was always a jerk who didn't respect the roach. Jane stopped answering my calls. She was too busy dealing with the endless issues involving the roach. She stopped talking to me directly, though she would occasionally text. Jane had actually been a stable person. She had a career that paid the bills and was studying part-time for a second career. She lived in a stable roommate situation. After the roach came into her life, Jane quit her job and dropped out of school, mostly so she could take care of the roach full-time. By some bizarre turn of events, Jane kept claiming that someone was hacking into her bank account and stealing her money. First it was an old roommate, then it was various friends of Jane, but personally, I think it was the roach. Jane was constantly changing her banking information. After about 8 months of almost never speaking to Jane, she asked if we could hang out. I was so happy to. I drove to her home and picked her up. Our hangout was pretty awful. Jane explained she was sorry but had to buy the roach cigarettes during our time together. She asked me for a ride to the convenience store. Apparently, the roach only smoked expensive, high-end cigarettes, so Jane had to transfer money between her accounts to afford them. This took forever. Keep in mind, this was the day before they were about to be evicted again, and according to Jane, getting the roach her cigarettes was the highest priority. If the roach didn't have her cigs, life at home would be difficult. After Jane finally dropped off the cigarettes, we were able to hang out at a local park. Jane started talking and acting like her usual self, but suddenly, she turned white. "She's here. She's my girlfriend," Jane said, pointing to a blonde woman in the distance. Jane didn't look happy. She looked scared. The roach approached and proceeded to tear into Jane. Apparently, Jane hadn't delivered the cigarettes the way she wanted. The roach yelled at her and called her names. Jane just kept apologizing and went pale. After she left, Jane said she didn't feel well and needed to go home to try to smooth things over. I hated that woman so much in that moment. I wanted to kick her out of Jane's life and tell her to leave her alone. The interaction was so awful that for the next 2 months, I felt a flash of disgust every time I saw a blonde woman. Odd, because I'm a natural blonde myself, but everyone reminded me of the roach. Since that day, Jane and the roach have been homeless, living on the street. Jane has been arrested and spent time in jail for various neglectful reasons, like not returning rented property, which she just forgot because she got busy. The roach has also been to jail for domestic violence against Jane. I tried to talk to Jane about her girlfriend. One evening, her girlfriend got mad at her and physically attacked her. Jane came to visit me, and we talked. I told her kindly but honestly that I didn't think her girlfriend was good for her. Jane said others had told her the same thing, but she didn't believe them. I explained that the roach was abusive. Jane asked me for evidence, so I pointed out how the roach had been isolating her from friends and family. Whenever Jane made plans, the roach would suddenly need her for some trivial task, and Jane couldn't come. Jane would then apologize for all the canceled plans, explaining she'd been really busy and was sorry she wasn't as reliable. She completely deflected from the roach's controlling behavior. I pointed out that the roach had literally been arrested for domestic violence against her. Rather than serving as a wake-up call, Jane immediately asked how I knew this. I explained that when Jane went to jail, I looked up the public records of incarceration, saw the roach's name, and read the charges. Instead of acknowledging the evidence, Jane changed the subject to how difficult it had been for her to find that information, and wanted to know how I found it. No matter how obvious the evidence is, Jane is so deep in denial that she refuses to admit how toxic this relationship is. Jane has called me to talk about both verbal and physical abuse from the roach. However, the next day, she'll tell me how she's the happiest she's ever been, how in love she is, and how she hopes she can change the roach. I hate this. Jane keeps saying that once things get better, she wants me and the roach to meet and become good friends, and that once I get to know her, I'll like her too. I don't want to get to know that person. I hate her and have no desire to see any good in her. I hate that Jane is doing this to herself. I think she has a love addiction. I don't think Jane realizes that this woman is a bad influence. She thinks she's just having bad luck. She's completely blind to the truth. She says she's in love. If this is what love is, I want nothing to do with it. I don't care how interesting the roach is. She is harming my friend, and I just can't get on board with it. Thanks for letting me rant. P.S. Please note, I'm not asking for advice, so please don't offer any. I understand that Jane's life is in a difficult place, and there's nothing I can do to change it. I just have to watch my dear friend self-destruct. I needed to vent as I come to terms with the sad reality of Jane's life and the state of my friendship with her. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.